Hello everyone and welcome to today's video blog from Fortuna Admissions. I'm Caroline Diarte-Edwards, Director at Fortuna and formerly Head of Admissions at INSEAD. And I'm joined today by my colleague Noni Mackie, who was a colleague of mine at INSEAD and coached MBA students and EMBAs on how to best achieve their career goals. So the topic we wanted to talk about today is how do you go about doing a job search when you're not targeting a typical post-MBA role. So perhaps you're looking at moving into the hospitality industry or into retail, and there are often not lots of companies or any companies recruiting on campus for positions in that industry. It doesn't mean that you can't get into it, but it's a different type of job search. So Noni, could you talk a little bit about, first of all, how is this job search different?
Yeah, so it can be really challenging because, as you said, typically, let's say, for example, you are looking to move into retail or hospitality industry. These companies aren't coming on campus. So you can feel a little bit deflated initially in your career search when you're not seeing these companies coming on campus. But it's important to know that in advance. And if you do know that in advance, then obviously you can start preparing for it. You can start developing your network, reaching out to people, looking at how alumni have conducted their career search and definitely asking them for their tips and advice on what to do. Networking, obviously, in this area is critical, and really having a good understanding about what the industry or the sector is about, what kind of job opportunities might be available to you, given the skills that you can leverage. So I would say definitely be prepared and know in advance that it's going to be challenging, and start developing your network in advance so that when you do get to campus, you are prepared and you have a well-formulated network that you can fall back on and start getting back in contact with these people and saying, hey, I'm now back, I'm at MBA school, I've learned all this great new knowledge, and I'd love to have another chat with you about potential opportunities. These types of companies perhaps don't value the MBA as much as, let's say, consulting or financial services or other commerce and industrial companies. However, it's not to say that the skill set that you can bring to this company isn't valuable. So you need to perhaps start thinking about looking very closely at your CV and making sure that your CV is targeted to that industry and that you're really leveraging skills which will be useful and valuable to that company.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, about timing and when you would need to start this sort of job search. But it sounds like you need to start even before you get to campus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Networking.
Yeah, and if you have the opportunity before starting your MBA to do an internship or to take up some pro bono work and volunteer with a hotel or with a retailer, really show that prepared to enter at entry level and roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. This will really show to a future employer that you are genuinely committed and passionate about joining this sector, that their company. So yeah, absolutely, you've got that time before starting your MBA. Utilize it, maximize it as much as you can.
And you talk about networking. What are your thoughts on how to best leverage the alumni network in this type of job search?
LinkedIn is a great way to do this, but I think it's really important when you're networking to remember that it is a two-way process, and it's not all about grabbing information and going. It's about having an informational interview, trying to give something back to the person that you're connecting with, trying to build a long-term relationship. In particular geographies like Asia, that's incredibly important. I think everywhere it's important, but it's important to realize that in some geographies it's even more important. So when you reach out to people, be considerate and make sure that you're not just in it for the short term, that you're really there to genuinely build a relationship which is going to be lasting and that you can go back to, and think about what can you give to them. Can you share a contact with them? Is there information about the company that you work for that might be useful to them, a network you can perhaps introduce them to. So do remember that networking is a two-way process, and that you want to always be putting your best foot forward at all times.
That's great. That's great. And what about, you know, graduation is approaching, and, you know, despite having done all of this great networking and research, the student hasn't yet landed that dream job in, you know, in a sector such as, you know, we've been discussing. What should they do?
Okay, well, there's a couple of different options, and hopefully that person will have had plan B in place, which they can hopefully fall back onto and activate contacts and start moving forward, maybe with target companies which they have in their plan B. But it's also worth thinking about doing perhaps an internship post MBA, or do volunteer work, pro bono work, maybe reaching out to some alumni who have started companies in the last couple of years and seeing whether or not there's an expertise that you can bring to their company within a sector that maybe you don't have any knowledge or experience in. So you're gaining from that, you're gaining some sector experience, but at the same time you're able to share some functional expertise with them, which I'm sure they would be very grateful for. All these small steps obviously will help show that you are genuinely interested in getting into X sector or building expertise in a particular functional area. It's also worth thinking about your current company that you're working for. Maybe rather than trying to undertake a radical career change, so changing geography, function, and sector, maybe keep the sector, the company that you're working for, change the functional expertise. Maybe you're passionate about moving into hospitality and working in HR, but you're currently in a pharmaceuticals company and in a sales position. So within that pharmaceuticals company, is there the opportunity to maybe move into an HR role? Speak to your current employer about that, at least by changing one element of your career, your goals. You're able to build expertise in HR, which 2-3 years down the line makes you a lot more attractive to a company within hospitality, because now you have some HR experience. So it's not such a radical change. So maybe take a step back, look at the different elements that you're trying to change in your career. Maybe don't try to change all 3 of them, just change one, and that will certainly help you to feel that you are still achieving, you're putting your MBA to good use, and it's small steps that you're taking in order to get to that final destination, that final goal in your career vision.
Yeah. Any final words of advice, Noni, for a student who is looking at tackling quite a challenging job search?
I think, firstly, don't become deflated. It's easy when you're on campus to see people receiving lots of interview offers and off-job offers, and you know, being very successful in their career search. Whereas for you, you might be struggling, and it might be very, very challenging. But keep that patience and that determination and that focus going. It will happen, but for some people it takes longer. It doesn't happen immediately after MBA. It might be 6 months, 12 months post MBA that you're eventually feeling like you're taking those small steps to your ultimate career goal. So keep the patience going, keep morale up, because that also comes across in your networking and in your informational interviews. If you're deflated, if you're not feeling great, if you're negative about your career search, then it does come across in your networking efforts. So keep buoyant and keep positive, and that right opportunity hopefully will be around the corner.
Great, wonderful. Keep the faith. Thank you so much, Noni, for your thoughtful advice, and thank you to our audience for joining us today. And please connect with us on fortunaadmissions.com.